Do you think that California is going to shift closer to the right after this or no?
God, I don't know. I mean, I've been impressed with his response. I think he's very eloquent. So I think what he said in trying just to defend California is what we need in a leader. Obviously, a lot of things that actually impact response is on the local level. And I need to get more educated on that. I think I'm just really overwhelmed personally.
Yeah, I know.
That's true. She does need to get more educated.
As our house was burning, I thought, where are all the firemen? But the thing is, it's so huge. The scope is so large. I would have liked to have seen an earlier federal response, like people coming in from all over. And it took a while for people to come in from the West Coast even. There's, a lot of people are really unhappy. And I just think this is climate change. This is, the scope of this is huge. Nobody could have prepared for this. I understand. Apparently there are some things they could have done, but
Nobody could prepare for this. Apparently there's some things they could have done. Okay, you got to get your story right, lady.
I don't know yet that now is not the time to do all the blaming.
Yeah.
And I really hope they put some resources into the recovery because we have lost a lot.
I mean, do you think that Newsom is partially to blame, or what do you think?
Rumor has it that our forestry has not been good, and that's the cause of it. And I don't know if that's true or not. I know that that's very political, and that's what happened in the last fires.
What do you think you do when you vote? Like, what do you think the point of politicians is? Like, they're our leaders. They're the ones that make sure stuff that needs to get done gets done. Of course it's political.
When Trump did the blame game, and here I am talking about that. I just don't think that helps anything. I don't know. I don't think he's to blame. I absolutely don't.
Yeah, voting doesn't matter, people. Your leadership doesn't matter.
I lost my home in Pacific Palisades and everything in it, and I'm a teacher. I have a voice studio there, and all my students lost their homes. And this is my second time. I moved to Pacific Palisades because I was burnt out of Malibu. I thought, I'm so experienced. Won't be so bad the second time, but it's still awful.
Can you tell me about what the difference in experiences was from the first to the second time this happened to you?
The first time it was an area of Malibu. This time it's my whole town. It's like an atomic bomb dropped.
Can you tell me about the response from California? I imagine you're dissatisfied with it, but I honestly don't know. So can you tell me about how you feel about it?
We left very late. We did not leave till 6:30 at night because we weren't aware that everything's kind of hilly there, that just over the hill everything was gone. So we left quite late, and the disturbing thing is that we didn't really see a lot of fire trucks or
It's because they're in a parking lot somewhere.
police. Once again, nobody evacuated us. Like the first fire, nobody evacuated us. So if a friend hadn't been calling me repeatedly on my answering machine, because it was early in the morning, I was sick, I was home in bed, actually recovering from cancer, and if my friend hadn't been calling me continuously, I would have died. Same thing this time. I wouldn't have known that the neighborhood was on fire. There weren't enough firefighters, basically, and it's not their fault. They did a great job. It's more just not having enough people.
Do you blame?
How much you want to bet she doesn't blame anyone for this? Just bad things happen, but nobody can ever be blamed.
Blame the governor? Do you blame the mayor?
The biggest problem is that I don't think there was good infrastructure for fire, because the big problem is there was no
And whose responsibility was that?
water in the fire hydrants. There was no water. A lot of people want to blame Karen Bass. A lot of people want to blame Governor Newsom. I mean, a lot of people want to blame people. I don't know. I mean, I don't really want to do that. Definitely, I'm unhappy with the response, but I can't blame the firefighters. They worked their butt off. I just heard that they just reduced the amount of firemen that we had in Los Angeles. I mean, that's crazy. This California is known for wildfires.
And so the woman that was in charge of, making sure the fire hydrants had water was being paid $750,000 a year. She still is. Is there? excuse for that? Is there a reason?
I think she should donate her salary.
Yeah.
And then they're donating, everybody's donating so much money to fire relief. Where does that money go?
Do you see a changing of the guard coming? Do you think people, like, what are your neighbors saying? Are they saying kind of like they might vote differently now? They're not going to re-vote for Newsom?
Oh, yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody will have to take the fall.
How do you feel about the government's response to these fires?
I would say largely incompetent. I mean, I think they're trying to put them out the best they can, but the preparation was a mess. The empty reservoirs, a mess. Planning to check the fire hydrants in January, which was the middle of fire season, made no sense at all. I just think it's a lot of incompetence at the top.
What can be done differently for preparation? Like, what would you have liked to see done differently?
Well, I mean, a lot of what they do is they should have cut back a lot of the vegetation, especially around the neighborhoods, so the fires can burn up to a certain point. Obviously, the reservoirs should have been full.
All of these fire experts.
Not that the water was necessarily getting sucked out of them, but there's no reason to have empty reservoirs in LA when we had record rainfall last year. The fire hydrants should have been tested way ahead of time before fire season. They should have had enough firemen. They shouldn't have had, I've heard 17 million cut out of the budget by the city, 100 million cut out of the budget by the state.
Yeah, that makes no sense. No sense.
Life in LA has come to a standstill, over this last week.
Right. And our phones are going off at night. Emergency evacuation.
False evacuation
Which,
notifications.
Yeah, what's going on with that's real, people? That's actually
real.
happening.
Yeah, it's actually happening. Yeah.
Maybe Karen Bass sent out that evacuation message. I saw that when she was doing a press conference, she said to check out some resources you can go to @URL. How do you think someone like that got elected?
All of this can be found at URL.
She checked all the right boxes for a lot of the voters here.
Yeah.
Do you think that there's going to be a big political shift after these fires?
No.
I don't know. I mean, more people who are logical thinkers might move out of state, which could be bad for the state. People also might look at, here's what I voted for and here's what I got, and maybe we made the wrong choice, and they'll finally see it.
Because
I don't think they will. The problem with politics today is people no longer have religion, and now they've made politics their religion.
if losing your $100 million apartment or house makes you not vote Republican, I don't know what would, right? Is there anything else?
I mean, again, I think when it actually, I think a lot of people in the Palisades think things are going to affect everybody but them, that they're up in this area that nothing is going to touch them, and now when government policies severely affected them, they're realizing that their vote matters for them too. You know, it's like if you vote to not prosecute crimes, they're thinking, well, I don't live in somewhere that's very crime infested anyway. But like on the news today, the DA was really emphasizing that if you loot, if you like fires, we are going to prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law.
Shouldn't be anyway.
What about the rest of the laws? It's like, we ignore the rest of the laws, but we're going to take these seriously.
Like looting is now illegal because rich people are getting robbed. Right?
Yeah, that's terrible. But
that's very
Well, that's their taxpayers. That's who's paying most of the taxes.
interesting. I mean, I saw Newsom said that repealing Prop 47 would be like racist, and now it has been repealed. Voters overwhelmingly wanted looting to become illegal again.
It's racist.
Everything's racist.
Everything's racist. If you don't agree liberal, it's racist.
What do you think about DEI in the fire department? Because it's a big thing right now.
When statistically 1.5% of the population are lesbians, and 4 of the top people in the fire department are. You know, I didn't come up with it, but I read somebody say DEI stands for didn't earn it. When one of these leaders of the fire department said, when you're having someone come to the door to rescue you, people want someone who looks like them coming to the door. It's like, I think you want somebody competent coming to the door, not someone who looks like you.
Wow.
You know what's crazy? I was thinking about this morning. You could imagine that same argument being made by a member of the KKK in some like podunk town in the South, where they could say that exact same thing on why we don't want to hire like a black fire chief or black firefighters because 99% of the town is white. And it would be viewed as extremely racist.
How do you think the government's response has been to this disaster?
Well, it seems like I'm not an expert on natural disasters, but it seems that this was, if not avoidable, could have been minimized. And it seems like there were a lot of mistakes. There was an empty reservoir, fire hydrants running out of water, There's a guy called Rick Caruso who ran for mayor and lost, who is a real estate developer who owns a big outdoor shopping mall in the Palisades and took preventative measures privately, and his property does not have a spot on it. So if that guy were mayor of Los Angeles, maybe the outcome would have been different. I'm still trying to understand the masochism of liberals in California that pay the highest taxes in the country and get treated like shit.
Yeah. Why do you think, what's your latest theory on why that's the case? Because what I see in 2019, since 2019, they've spent $24 billion on homeless, and it's gone up. The homeless issue has gone worse. Nobody knows where that money is going. Why do people in California continue to vote liberal if their city is getting worse?
You may have heard Stockholm Syndrome mentioned when people talk about things like true crime or Beauty and the Beast. But what is it really? Where did the term come from? Why does it happen? And how common is it?
The 24 billion, there's a homelessness industrial complex that money goes to. But it's mind-boggling that people continue to vote this way. When I have conversations with you, I voted for Trump twice, and I'm open about it here. I have a t-shirt that says Liberals for Trump that I made just to try it because I don't care. I think liberals fundamentally feel guilty. So you have wealthy liberals in California that are like paying indulgences, like the idea of carbon footprints and all of this stuff. So as long as the politician is pro-choice and seemingly progressive, then that seems to be enough for liberals. I can't understand how anyone would vote for Gavin Newsom. He's like clearly a sociopath and I was thinking about this today, imagine rising to the position of governor of California, the 6th largest economy in the world, one of the most beautiful places in the world, and having your legacy be that you created a crime-ridden, bankrupt shithole. This place had a surplus 2 years ago. So that would disqualify, like Gavin Newsom would not be employable in the private sector with that kind of performance, but these people continue to vote for this stuff. And
It's because he's a smooth talker. Oh, he's so eloquent. If Gavin Newsom has the record that he has, but he looked like Chris Christie, do you really think he'd still be the governor?
With that kind of performance, but these people continue to vote for this stuff. And I've thought about leaving multiple times, but I love it here. I don't want to. So I hope that this disaster might change things and wake people up. In 2016, I was like an anti-Trump person and was very upset when he was elected. And then I've changed tune very quickly after seeing him being smeared unfairly, seeing media coverage that's taken out of context, edited. I'm not a Trump sycophant, but he's a politician. But he makes these people crazy. And the same standard doesn't apply to any Democrat politician like Gavin Newsom, who had an affair with his best friend's wife, who was his campaign manager. I don't know what else somebody could do in terms of character. And all of Biden's stuff. It's like the worst president in the history of this country and the most corrupt. It's like a criminal.
Newsom and Biden have decided on $700 for people that have lost their homes.
What is that, like their dog walker? Because the government's going to give everyone in the Palisades like dog walker money?
When you see that the fire department has DEI in it, what's your take on that?
It's absurd. Like, who would you want flying the plane that you're on? The best person for the job. I think that should apply to everything. I think it was Malcolm X said, like, the most dangerous person to the black person is the white liberal.
Do you feel like California's going to shift Republican now?
Locally?
Yeah.
It's hard to tell. I hope so.
Might have small pockets, but not as a whole.
So I feel optimistic.
Okay.
And I think someone like Nicole Shanahan could run for governor.
VP on the ticket for RFK.
RFK. Yeah, she's really smart. She's a woman. Yeah. She's half Asian, so these lunatics can't paint her with the brush that they'd like to. The MAGA movement in this country is just like a pro-freedom coalition right now.
Yeah.
That respects the Constitution. And then there's the rest of this like lunatic leftist commie bullshit.
I know that California has been liberal for a long time, has voted liberal for a long time. I spoke to some people that think that there could be a switch potentially.
California's pretty divided.
California's divided?
It's more divided than people think, yeah.
Oh, really? And that's
Los Angeles may not be divided.
Okay. And do you think it's going to get more divided after this fire?
Certainly Los Angeles will be.
What have you heard from neighbors, friends? Like, what are people saying?
Newsom should have done better. where were the firefighters? And I'm in that camp, but I just don't think we have the resources. And then you can go to Newsom and say, well, why weren't the resources there? But we don't have the resources for homelessness. Like, how do you spread them around? Now
And yet you're the highest taxed.
we've had a disaster like this, the resources will hopefully change.
Well, something that confuses me about homelessness, and again, nice to speak to actually someone who lives here, that like $24 billion were invested into homelessness, but it seems like, and it is going up. Why? Like, why do you think that is? What's going on?
I think it's not an easy solution, and people are trying to find a lot of solutions and spending a lot of money trying to find the solutions, and we haven't found it yet.
What did you think about the government response to the fires? Like, what are your thoughts on it?
I mean, I don't have a cogent response right now because obviously I'm trying to decompress from work. I think all of us are just really overwhelmed with everything, and there's a lot of misinformation, and that's the biggest problem.
And what is that misinformation? Because you're actually on the ground, so.
Yeah, I mean.
She's scared. She's got a lot of friends in her Facebook groups. They all voted for this. She's scared. You got a mask on. Just give her a hat, and then she could tell the truth.
There was a lot of misinformation about what water availability was, and I'm thinking more of on the federal level of how our national leaders have been responding, and that misinformation rather than probably local information.
Yeah. Like the stuff about the fire hydrants not having water and stuff?
Yeah,
that's not true.
and the source of the fires, basically saying that the firefighters that they don't have what they need, and maybe they don't have exactly what they need, but,
Do you think that California is going to shift closer to the right after this, or no?
God, I don't know. I mean, I've been impressed with his response. I think he's very eloquent. So I think what he said in trying just to defend California is what we need in a leader. Obviously, a lot of things that actually impact response is on the local level. And I need to get more educated on that. I think I'm just really overwhelmed personally.
Yeah, I know.
That's true. She does need to get more educated. Fair.
Newsom is putting in $50 million to sort of fight Trump on his policies. Do you think that's a good idea to sort of fight back?
Yes, I think so for sure. I mean, he's targeted California.
Oh, God. What are you doing?
For a million things. Yeah. So I think so.
Thank you.
I saw a video of a village in Japan today of these water cannons that pop out of the ground.
That's cool.
And just they're like hyper sprinklers. The village has been there for 250 years. It's in a fire prone area. So yeah, I mean, I think any areas in a disaster prone state like California that could have something like that would probably behoove us. I mean, even if it's very expensive, it would probably be a lot less expensive than what we're having to deal with right now.
Which is going to look like almost $200 billion. It's going to be almost $200 billion worth of damage, let alone people's literal lives.
So I think an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Something like this might lean the state to go back red. I mean, California used to be a red state in the 1980s. Reagan is from here. Reagan was a two-term very conservative Republican president. The state of California is not, it wouldn't be the first time it was red. There are things that shift us back and forth. I'm from Texas originally, red state. However, there's a lot of Democrats there as well. There's a little bit of all of us everywhere. I try not to politicize anything, try to be objective about the truth about the matter of things.
So you mentioned being objective about it versus politicizing it. This is a conversation I think the nation needs to hear, which is like, politicizing it, I think, is objectifying it in a way, because you're looking at who are the people in charge and what do they need to do better. And if we can't talk about that, then what's the difference between being objective and being, politicizing it? I'd like to hear what your opinion is on what being objective really is.
I think being objective is just being, true to yourself and true to the situation. In this situation, I don't think it would have mattered who was in power unless they would have taken more preventative measures.
But that's a big thing, right? Like whether or not they would have done that. So you would be okay if the state turned red?
Absolutely. I'm not a party guy. I'm not a blue or red guy.
You're an independent?
I used to be center left. I'm center right now just because of the way things have been in the world for so long.
All right, everyone, that was just a few segments from the video. I'll leave a link to the full-length one down below in the description. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.